Hello friends, welcome back in this session. So we will going to understand auto-scaling group in this session. So let's start. So first question is, what is auto-scaling group? So auto-scaling group contains the collection of EC2 instances that are treated as logical grouping of purpose of automatically scaling management. So basically it's manage the scaling, that scale in and scale out policy that we'll see in the further slides. An auto-scaling group also enable you to use the EC2 instance auto-scaling features such as the health check, replacement of scaling policy. So let's try to understand in depth what is auto-scaling. So we will see to understand the deep diving of the auto-scaling group. So in real life, basically your website and application which will be changed based on the dynamic load. So more user, more popular as you are going to be, and the load which comes unpredictable you're going to have. So in the cloud, we create and get rid of server very quickly. So there is one of thing that's auto scaling group does very well here. So it is to scale out, that means adding instance to match increase the load, but also scale in, basically it's removing the instance to match your decreased load. And then finally we can ensure that EC2 instance can have the grow certain amount to increase and certain amount to the decrease load of amount. And so we can define minimum and maximum number of machines running in a ASG. Finally, we can also have the super cool features of the ASG, which is automatically registering the new instance in the load balancer. So in the previous lecture we did the registration of instance manually, but obviously there is always a kind of automation that we'll see in the further. So in this slide, let's try to understand auto scaling group with diagram. So you can see in this diagram, that's at the bottom level, you can see the big arrow and having the EC2 instance are defined there. So that's a two different color, one is the dark and one is the dotted color. So if you see there is one size is mentioned is the minimum size at the left side. So basically it's a number of EC2 instance you will have for the sure running in the auto scaling group. The actual size or desired capacity parameter is the number of EC2 instance running at the previous moment in the current moment in your autoscaling group. And then you have the maximum size, which is basically how many instance you want to add for the scale out if your goal or your load goes up based on your traffic. So that's a super useful what you need to know about the minimum size, desired capacity and maximum size parameter, because they will come out very often. Also note that scale out means adding instance and scale in means removing the instance. So auto scaling group with the load balancer. So now how does it looks with the load balancer? Let's try to understand. So here is one of the load balancer. Basically traffics come from the wage that goes straight to the load balancer, and then it will be goes to the auto scaling group in the bottom of basically load balancer will know directly how to connect these to the AWS ASG instance. So here we will direct the traffic to these instances. But if you auto scaling group goes scale out, so if we add the EC2 instance, then load balancer basically will register the new target. Obviously it will check the health checks and directly reach out the traffic to them back. So load balancer auto scaling really works well, and it makes lots of automation and makes the traffic easily to the distribution to the each instance. So let's try to understand the different attributes of the auto scaling group. So in auto scaling group there are the lots of attributes. A launch configuration start from, so which basically creates one. In the next lecture we will see the how we can create the launch configuration in the hands-on session. But a launch configuration has a AMI and the instance type, user data if you required it, EBS volume, security group, SSH key pair. And as you can create these as you kite, the same things basically we do from the manually. So this is same, almost same. You have also set up the minimum size, maximum size, initial capacity, as well as the desired capacity. We can also define the network and the subnet in which our ASG will be able to create the new instance. And we will define the load balancer information or target group information based on which load balancer we can use. Finally, we can create the ASG as we can see, and we can able to the define the scaling policy. So what the trigger scale out and what the trigger scale in, that we'll see in next slide. So that is the alarm. So we are getting into the auto scaling part, which basically use the alarm. And so basically it's possible to scale your auto scaling group based on the CloudWatch alarm. So scaling based on the ASG based on the CloudWatch alarm, that's the first thing. The next one is basically alarm the monitor matrix. So a CloudWatch alarm goes can be anything based on the monitor of the few metrics. So when this alarm goes up, so when the matrix goes up, it will basically scale out your policy trigger, and it will basically add your instances. Matrix is basically compute as a overall average, and alarm trigger based on your different policy setup. And you define your matrix. For example, you want to define the matrix is average CPU or average memory utilization. So based on your utilization of the matrix, and the alarm goes trigger, and your instance will add a scale out and scale in policy. So scale out will adding your instance, and scale in again it's make for the minimum or desired capacity. So basically ASC will scale based on the alarm, and alarm can be anything based on your matrix. The monitor such as average CPU, and the matrix can compute as a overall. So it doesn't look at the minimum or maximum size. Basically it looks at the average of this matrix based on the alarm. And we can create the scale out policy and scale in policy as we discuss. So now let's move further with the auto scaling rule. So there are rules. There are new rules for the auto scaling which we'll basically seeing in the hands-on. But now we can basically understand here. I want the certain target group average in my auto scaling group. So basically auto scaling group will be trigger based on the target average of the certain matrix. So here we'll take the example of the CPU utilization, and basically it will scale in and scale out based on the load made to the target CPU utilization. You can also have the rules based on the number of requests on the your ELB instance. The average network in and the average network out, basically these two, basically it works on really whatever you want to better for your auto scaling policy. So you can use the rules based on your requirement. So this rule basically makes easier of your setup, and it makes more sense to reason about what you want you for your instance. So if you have the question, I want uh, something policies running based on the thousands requests per instance from my ALB. So you can define I want my CPU utilization for the 40% of average. I want to make a scale out policy. So whatever you define, you can make the easily rule, which is the configuration part of the ASG. So here we will understand the auto scaling group also define the custom metrics. So let's try to understand. Okay, so auto scaling can be configured with the custom metrics. For example, number of connected user. So you want to scale based on the specific the metrics which are not given by the AWS. So basically we can define the custom metrics, the number of connected user to your application, and vice versa. The next one is we can create the custom metrics from your application. We will send the CloudWatch that data using the put metrics API. We'll also create the custom alarm to react on low and high values on the specific metrics. So you can define your custom metrics. You can define the policy on your low and high value for the specific metrics. And these are alarm basically trigger the scaling policy for your ASC. So what you should know out of this is the auto scaling group isn't tied with the metrics base which are the basically AWS exposed. It's also support with the metrics you want. It can be the custom metrics. Okay, so auto scaling group, let's try to understand. We have gone through the different parameters of the auto scaling, but at a high level, what things we have to make sure while understanding the auto scaling group. So let's try from the recap session. So auto scaling policy that can be the CPU, network utilization, that's AWS department. You can create the custom metrics on based on the schedule if you know the visitor pattern. So basically scaling policy for your ASZ, and it can be anything you want. So it could be the CPU, network utilization, it could be the custom metrics, or you define, or even based on the schedule. If you know the advance, you are visitor or your visitor pattern. For example, your website having the certain load on the specific time, even you can create that custom metrics. So that's really make the cool features of the ASZ. The next one is ASZ can use the launch configuration or launch template. Basically, launch template, the newer version of the launch configuration, and launch templates are the basically used for the configuration same as the launch configuration. So they are the recommended to moving the forward. And if you want to update the auto scaling group, what you need to do? You need to provide a new version of the launch configuration or launch template, and then underlying EC2 instance can be replaced over the time. If you do attach the IAM role to your auto scaling group, that means the same IAM role will be automatically assigned to your EC2 instance that you are going to launch. And auto scaling group is a itself are basically free. There's a no upfront charge for the any auto scaling group. Yeah, but you need to pay for the underlying resources basically that being launched with the auto scaling group. So that could be the EC2 instance or EBS volume. If you have an instance under the ASZ, and the good thing is of that ASZ instance, somehow the instance get terminated, then ASZ will understand that instance has been terminated, and it will automatically create the new instance with replacement. And that is the whole purpose of the ASZ really. It's basically adding the extra safety that it gives you. To know that your instance will be automatically recreated as the new one in case of something goes wrong. So at the last, when will the instance will be terminated? So in which situation instance will be terminated? So instance can be terminated, for example, if they mark as unhealthy by a load balancer. So your ASZ knows, so this instance mark as unhealthy. The better thing is to terminate that instance and they create new one. So ASZ will understand that instance is unhealthy and it will create the new one. So ASZ create automatically new instance It doesn't restart, it doesn't stop your instance. Internally, it terminate and create the replacement of that particular instance which mark is unhealthy. So that's all about the auto-scaling group. I hope you like this tutorial, and we'll see and we'll meet in the next lecture. Thank you.